Former All-Pro running back Jonathan Taylor is officially available for trade, so you know that has me thinking, should my Carolina Panthers go ahead and make that move and bring this young superstar to the Carolinas? So in this video, I'm going to give you all the pros, the cons, and my overall conclusion on whether or not I think that should happen, and we're going to get into all of that right after this.
I'm from the foe, you dig?
Welcome to The Way I See It with Jamario Rashad. This is a Carolina Panthers fan channel. Please do me a favor by hitting the like button, and please make sure you subscribe as I am on my road to 3K, trying to make sure my channel continues to grow before these games get started very, very soon. Now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and get to Mr. Jonathan Taylor. Now, if you are not familiar with just who Jonathan Taylor is, he is a 5'10", 226-pound dual-threat running back drafted in the second round, 41st overall in the 2020 draft from the University of Wisconsin. As it stands today, Jonathan Taylor is only 24 years old. He's already got the accomplishment, as I mentioned, of being an All-Pro, an NFL rushing leader, and his season and per game stats are eye-popping to say the least. On a per game basis, rushing yards, Jonathan Taylor averages 89.3 per game, and on a per carry basis, Jonathan Taylor averages 5.1 yards per carry. Just to give you a little deeper look into those stats, he averages through 3 years 1,280 rushing yards per season. He averages on a per game basis over 110 all-purpose yards per game, and at this point in his career, he averages 81 first downs per season. So that just gives you a little peek or a little glance into just how effective and just how dynamic Jonathan Taylor has shown to be in his short 3-year career that is still going at this current time. So now that you have a pretty good understanding of just how good Jonathan Taylor is and who he is, let's talk about the positives of bringing a talent like this to this Carolina Panthers team as it stands. Now, right now, the first thing that I have to point out is this guy is currently, in my opinion, a top 3 running back talent in the entirety of the NFL. You have Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, and Derrick Henry if I were to rank these guys. Jonathan Taylor has the opportunity to be an absolute weapon for us, similar to how we got to the production that we got a few years ago from the dynamic likes of a Christian McCaffrey. But that does not necessarily mean that, you know, he will come in and be as effective. But with the likes of a Miles Sanders already there, with the likes of a third-year guy like Chuba Hubbard, adding this dynamic piece to your running back room to be a in tandem with the likes of a Miles Sanders, man, that just makes this immediately, in my opinion, the best running back duo in the league, man. But what else would be a pro for bringing this in? I think the transition for Jonathan Taylor would be just as easy as we see the average running back who has the easiest time assimilating themselves or transitioning their game from college to the NFL, because it's pretty much the same thing. You run between the tackles, you don't get tackled. Jonathan Taylor has played under our current head coach in Frank Reich, and during that season, he had his greatest season so far, where he had 1,810 rushing yards. He had nearly 300 receiving yards. That averaged out to over 2,100 all-purpose yards under the stewardship of a Frank Reich, and that is just something that is absolutely dynamic, just as I did for his overall stats. Something that just jumps off the page to me, and what would make him so valuable, in my opinion, is during that year with Frank Reich, Jonathan Taylor had 119 first downs combined on the ground and through the air. He kept the offense out there. He allowed for the defense to get adequate rest. He allowed for drives to be extended with their constant carousel of quarterbacks after the departure of an Andrew Luck. Even with a depleted offensive line, Jonathan Taylor was out there just being an absolute superstar, and it was nothing that anybody could do to stop him. So with that being done under under the ranks of a Frank Reich, I think that would be an easy transition back to coming to easy transition to coming into the Carolina Panthers locker room and doing the exact thing for us with a fairly comparable offensive line to what he has experienced over his first few years. Now, finally, the last point I want to make in terms of what would be a positive for this is this gives Bryce Young a very needed weapon, but not in the sense of him being somebody that Bryce Young is constantly gonna want to throw the ball to. What I mean when I say he is a needed weapon, he is a guy and a weapon that can be utilized and effective independent of the output and the effectiveness of Bryce Young. As with Bryce Young being a rookie, he is going to go through ebbs and flows. He is going to have growing pains and dependent positions like tight end, wide receiver. Those positions on our roster are going to struggle as Bryce Young does go through his learning phase. But guys like Jonathan Taylor, Miles Sanders, their production is independent of guys, is independent of that of Bryce Young, because they do not need Bryce Young to get them the ball. They are solely reliant on their own skill as well as the offensive line in front of them. So if Jonathan Taylor can be very effective alongside a guy like Miles Sanders, that takes so much pressure off of Bryce Young, provides such an effective play action game, just keeping the defenses on their heels, and that is something that can just help us to keep our star quarterback upright, keep him off the ground, to take some pressure off of our offensive line, to keep the other guys guessing. This would just be something that is perfectly matched, and I think that is a crucial positive to what we could potentially get out of adding a guy like Jonathan Taylor. So now, as we mentioned the positives, we do have to move into the negatives of this to be as objective in this thinking as possible. So first up, the first thing that we have to acknowledge is currently we do not even have a clear understanding of where Jonathan Taylor is in terms of his health. As it stands today, he is on the physically unable to perform list, the PUP list for the Indianapolis Colts. And as I imagine, I'm pretty sure if he were to be traded, he would have to pass a physical to ensure that the new team, hopefully the Carolina Panthers in this hypothetical scenario, would be able to acquire his services and ingratiate him into the team. But as of right now, we're not sure if that would even be the case, because he's not practicing. He hasn't been at training camp. Now, a lot of people, well, we all are pretty much we understand that this is because of the contract dispute, but you don't truly know at the end of the day, so you don't want to make any type of investment into a guy that could potentially be damaged goods. See Todd Gurley, and I'm just going to leave that there. So the next point that I want to bring up in terms of the negative is another that's pretty obvious, but this is something that I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to harp on, because this is something that is supposedly strapped us down over the last few years of trying to develop this young team. So what it will require to bring Jonathan Taylor here would not only be whatever that draft compensation would be to make the trade. He also is expecting a new contract as well. So there is going to be draft compensation paid, as well as financial compensation that has to be given up, cap space and availability that would have to be allocated to the likes of a Jonathan Taylor. So it's not just as if he is a free agent, so it isn't going to cost us anything in the upcoming draft or drafts. We have to give up that draft capital as well as giving up, money as well. So when that comes into the case, that means that other players that we potentially want to continue to have on the roster that we wouldn't want to let go of, we may potentially have to release, we may have to waive. There may be a few cap casualties that this team is still looking at as promising future pieces that we would have to give up right now to bring in the likes of a Jonathan Taylor, when we've already done something very similar and brought in Miles Sanders without even having to give up any draft capital. This would be double dipping in the running back market in what is perceived right now narratively to be the worst position that you could possibly invest in narratively. Notice that I said that, like, remember that I said that, but that is a fair objection to the idea of making this move. Now finally, when it comes to philosophy, I think a fair point can be made that the idea of this team transitioning, or at least in the immediate future, back into a run heavy, run reliant team after seeing how badly that failed when we put all our eggs in the Christian McCaffrey basket over the last 3 years. One would say that that's a little bit insane to try to repeat the same process that you just saw fail. And I think that would be a fair criticism of this. We are in a much better position now with the future of our quarterback position. The outlook on our other positional players can be looked at differently now that we have a good ball distributor in Bryce Young. So we do not have to be solely reliant on the output of the run game right now, because we've seen that guys break down, these hits add up, and no matter how good they are, they can't produce for you when they are not on the field. So why would one want to run it back when we're currently still paying for our, I guess, admitted mistake at this point, and paying Christian McCaffrey so much money? Even in his upcoming season, he is going to count $18 million against our cap, and he's not even playing for our team anymore. Why would you want to put yourself in that position again? I think that's a fair question to ask. So I think that is a fair negative to look at this possible acquisition. But now that we have those baselines and that foundation of both sides of this argument understood and to stand on, I want to give you my overall conclusion. And if you were to ask me, should the Carolina Panthers sign, trade for, whatever you have to do to get Jonathan Taylor on and to this team, I say hell yes, abso-freaking-lutely. As I was mentioning in one of my videos, I think the one I dropped yesterday, I do not know when Carolina Panthers fans got so damn bougie and this team got so damn good that we can turn our noses up and just scoff at all pro level talent as if we are in a position to say no to these guys. I just don't understand this thinking. There are so many people just out there in their day-to-day lives that I'm pretty sure you do not punch any numbers, you do not use any calculators, but whenever you see a running back or somebody of that sort potentially getting paid, you immediately turn into somebody with a doctorate in accounting and just know so much about damn numbers. Bruh, it ain't your damn money. Let the people in charge make the decisions, and whatever financial implications come with this, be okay with the fact that you got a damn all-pro player on your team, and let the people that are paid to make the financial decisions and make this team's financial cap and our books look good, let them do their damn jobs. That's not up to us to stop. We just want good players. I don't know about you. So now that I've got the emotional points out of the way, I'm gonna actually hit on a couple of actual points that I do have to make about this. Anything less or anything outside of a first round pick is absolutely worth it for this guy. And I know the argument for that is going to be, why would you trade away the second round pick? We're going to need, or you could potentially use that as a weapon for Bryce in this upcoming draft. You could potentially use that for a much needed edge rusher. My opinion and my objection to that, immediately starting with the offensive side of the ball, we didn't go out and we didn't use this immediate second draft pick this year, our second round draft pick, to draft Jonathan Mingo for no reason. We already turned our attention to trying to build the offense and build up and build rapport and draft a guy that Bryce can grow with in the same exact draft that we got him in. So looking forward to the next draft and saying we already need to draft another receiver, that comes off as if you are perceiving the Jonathan Mingo experiment to already be a failure already, when you don't know how good this guy's going to be, and your entire opinion of that could completely be different next year, especially with the likes of a DJ Chark potentially re-signing next year, you don't know what could happen. Now, when you look at that same side, and when you look on the other side of the spectrum of that, you can say, oh, we need a pass rusher. We need a pass rusher. I need for people to understand that Scott Fitterer's job and the people in charge's job is not only to look forward and draft and scout players. They are also paid to make free agent moves as well. So just as confident as y'all are in this group of people making these draft selections and them hopefully hitting one day, I need for you all to have the same exact expectation and same exact faith in them that they will be able to pick up the phone and sign some free agents that would actually be able to help this team as well, because that is part of their job description as well. It is not all about the draft. Scott Fitterer needs to sign some goddamn free agents. It's not all about who we could draft. So again, if we were to even give up that second round pick next year and that equated to bringing in Jonathan Taylor to the Carolina Panthers, that is more than worth it, because who in the hell were you going to get that is going to be better than him with that second round pick? And we are going to be middle of the pack in terms of cap space next year. We can bring in players. Like, this is not our money. Stop letting Stephen A, NFL Countdown, all of these people convince you that these players aren't valuable. Quit listening to these television and internet narratives, man. Think for yourself. They are literally lowering the cap. The cap is ever expanding. They are only lowering the market for running backs. They are doing that so that the overall perception of these guys are that they are not good. Well, if you could get a guy that had 2,100 all-purpose yards just one season ago, less than 24 months ago, man, get the hell out of here if you want to talk about, oh, he's not worth $11,000. Go argue with your goddamn mama. Yes, bring Jonathan Taylor to the Panthers, and that is exactly all I have to say about that situation. Now, finally, I'm going to make I said that's all I have to say. I'm going to make one more point, and then I promise I'm going to get out of here. Yetur Gross-Matos, C.J. Henderson, a second-round contract, a first-round contract, both scheduled to come off the books after this season. Xavier Woods not scheduled to make any more guaranteed money after this season. If you would not trade the likes of Yetur Gross-Matos, C.J. Henderson, and Xavier Woods to have the privilege of having Jonathan Taylor on your team, I don't know what the hell to say to you, man. You just don't know football, man. But with that being said, what do you all think about this potential topic? Would you want Jonathan Taylor to be a Carolina Panther? Would you be okay with having to give up draft compensation as well as financial capital to bring him to the Carolina Panthers? In my opinion, it would be a great move, man, but I understand the objections. I'm not telling the people that oppose to my viewpoint that you're wrong. I'm just saying that I see it another way, man. But however you feel, leave your comments down in the comment section, and I will be sure to chop it up with you there, man. But until next time, I am Jamario Rashad. This is the way I see it, and I'm out. Peace.